You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. We have another show and a special guest today. Today, we're talking to Tim Tye. He's a songwriter and musician behind the project Midnight Sky. You can go visit that website that he has, midnightskymusic.com. We're going to learn everything about him today. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for coming on. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate your time. So let's talk about the story of your music. What inspired you to get started on your music journey? And tell us a little bit about your blend of country and Americana music.
Well, I started playing guitar when I was a teenager. Wrote for, my whole life. And then, about 2009, I got it in my head to maybe get serious about recording and producing some of my stuff. So I met a local engineer and I booked some studio time and I got some musicians together. And at first I thought I'd just do a couple of songwriting demos, but one thing led to another, and eventually it turned into the first album, which is called Dark Stretch of Road. And during that time, my marriage fell apart, which actually inspired me to write all kinds of stuff. I started dating, and that inspired me to write more. And another album, A Few Good Years, came out in 2019. And then last year, I released Last Hope for the Modern World. And that's kind of brings us up to the present.
And your third album, it had a ton of streams on streaming platforms. Give us that kind of experience. What was it like to see not just people listen to your music, but just overall seeing the growth of your music career just keep going?
Yeah, it's I think everybody has that group of friends and family who tell them that anything they do is great. But it's a lot more valid, I think, when total strangers who, really aren't concerned with your feelings or anything else, give you a big thumbs up. I just got back from Atlanta over the weekend. I was a finalist on the ISSA Awards for Best Album of the Year. I didn't win, but I think the nomination was a pretty big deal for me, and it was a lot of fun to go to an awards show and have that experience.
If someone listens right now, say they aspire to be in the industry like yourself, I mean, first of all, how does one person get into position to be nominated? What was the process like wearing, not just the creative hat, but the business hat in the industry?
When I released the third album, I hired a guy named Mike Stover, MTS Management. And Mike's done a pretty good job of promoting my work. He's also done a good job of educating me about what sort of opportunities are out there, because I really didn't know anything about the ISSA until he told me. And then he also told me about the Josie Awards, which is another big independent award show. And that's at the Grand Ole Opry in October. And the latest album has been nominated for Best Male Country Album. So I've got another shot in October.
Well, congratulations on that, man. That's something that is, like you said earlier, once you get that validation from people outside your friends and family that says, hey, this guy is doing his thing, that's something special to have. When you look back at that, where you started and where you are now, what's something that you learned that you appreciate learning outside of the music knowledge, but just understanding the process that this is possible, like this path is actually possible for a creative like yourself?
Well, one thing I've learned is that you should never give up, because I'm going to reveal this for better or worse. I'm 71 years old. And, I started taking this seriously later in life, I think, than most people, because I worked on getting an education and building a legal practice and a bunch of other things. And so I think that that's an important lesson, is that don't say, well, I probably waited too long, or this is something that, you do when you're younger. If you've got the time, the inspiration, do it. And not just in music. I think in anything, as long as you have the, your wits about you, go for it.
You spent 45 plus years as a lawyer. So at what point did you decide, you know what, I want to get back to the music?
Well, that happened, I would say 2009 is when I first got the bug to start taking this seriously. Before that, I'd done lots of recordings in friends' basements and that kind of thing, and they were, they varied in quality. None of them were broadcast quality. There's nothing that that anybody would want to play on the radio. And I thought, I'm gonna reach for the brass ring and try to do something better. And I think I have.
When it comes to the genre of music, how did you select which ones that you wanted to pursue? And what was that process like for you in developing your sound?
I tend to write music in genres that I like. Obviously I'm a product of the 60s and 70s. I love 50s and 60s music. I liked your classic country singers, Johnny Cash, Hank Williams Sr., Tammy Wynette, those type of people. And I feel comfortable writing in genres that frankly aren't terribly musically sophisticated. I don't have a lot of musical training. I don't know a lot of jazz chords, diminished chords. I'm pretty much a major minor guy. And so when you're talking rock and country, that's really all you need. And so that's the direction that I've gone. Also, my goal at the beginning, and it's still a goal, is I would love to sell a song and hear somebody else record it. And there's still a lot of demand in country music for material that isn't penned by the artists themselves. So those are the factors that went into making the decisions I did about what to write and what to record.
We're talking to our guest today, Tim Tye. Go to his website, midnightskymusic.com. Let's talk about not too long ago, I believe it was about a month ago, you had a lyric video to the song Every Now and Then. Tell us a little bit about that project and how involved were you in the visual process with that?
That was another one that was put together by Mike Stover. And Every Now and Then, I thought it was kind of a throwaway song. I never really even intended to record it. And then somebody said, Tim, you really ought to. That's not a bad song. And we put some horns on it. And I think it turned out really well. And Mike seemed to think it was one of the songs on the album that would be a good single. And so we put together it's a relatively simple lyric video, but I think it helps visually convey the spirit of the song. It's just sort of a bubbly, bouncy love song. It's not based on anything in particular. It's just the way I think that most people feel when they're in love. And it's something you can dance to.
We look at marketing yourself and branding yourself as an artist. How much do you invest your time in and thinking about that branding part, like online and social media, or are you a little bit more laid back and just kind of have a publicist kind of take over that for you?
I've really handed those reins over to Mike. He's been doing this for years. He knows how it works. I'm reasonably tech savvy, but I'm not very social media savvy. Personally, I don't have much interest in Facebook or, X, formerly known as Twitter, any of those things. Mike gets on there. He posts for me. He does what he can to get the word out. I think finding somebody to help push my music was one of the smarter things that I've done.
Being from Ohio, I have ties in Ohio because I went to Toledo. Ohio is a cool spot. You specifically coming from Dayton, Ohio. What was the music scene like there? And are there any locals out there that are still rocking with Tim and everything that he's doing today?
Yeah, Dayton has a very vibrant music culture. And we have a lot of acts that aren't just cover bands. A lot of artists are doing original material, which I think is very important. We have a lot of venues. We have a Levitt Pavilion here, which I help to support. It's an outdoor venue. We do 44 free concerts a year. So it really brings the community together. You've got all sorts of people. We've got we got Yellow Cab Company, Trolley Stop, a bunch of places where original music can be heard by everybody. And I know a lot of local musicians. I've used a lot of them on my recordings. So Dayton's a pretty good place to be if you're an independent musician.
When you compare your albums that you have on your catalog, what would you say has and what ways would you say your sound has evolved from the first to the latest?
Well, I hope that I've gotten to be a better writer. I've always been fortunate to have excellent technical people, engineers. I'm credited as a co-producer of all three, which doesn't necessarily imply equal. Maybe I'm co-producer like for about 1/8, and my other co-producers are more like 7/8 because they are so much more knowledgeable and sophisticated than I am. But I do think that the third album is the best of the three, and I'm thinking maybe it wasn't time to push the other two. I think they're good. I think they're good. They're good works. They're good performances, but I don't think they have quite the professionalism and the polish that the new one has.
There's a quote from your bio, take the musical journey that defines your life for the audience. What can you say more to that and how that quote, what that quote means to you?
That was something I thought up when I was trying to publicize Dark Stretch of Road, which was the first album. And if you listen to any of my CDs or any of my songs, many of them are inspired by events in my life, some very specific, some more general. But my hope with every CD, with every album, is that a lot of people can listen to that and identify with it and say, yeah, something something really similar to that happened to me, or yeah, I felt that way too, because that's when you really start to connect with your audience. You've given them not necessarily a universal truth, but something that is widespread enough that a lot of people can listen to it and understand what you were thinking, understand what you were feeling when you wrote that song.
When you look at the opportunities you have to not just get your music out there, but be on different media platforms to kind of tell your story behind the scenes, if you will, of your brand and your music, what would you say is important for people out there who are listening to this interview to understand from a creative perspective of how the process it takes for you to not just build your sound, but to leave this legacy that you're doing?
Well, I guess it all starts with what you hope is good material. And then it's either on your own or with the help of someone like Mike Stover trying to get the word out, networking with other musicians, because sometimes, you find somebody who knows somebody, and all of a sudden you've got an opportunity that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And then, and this is what probably no creative person really wants to hear or think about, but it's the absolute truth. It's an awful lot of luck involved. There is so much good product out there. There are so many talented people. And with the advent of the internet and YouTube and digital recording, it's amazing what people can crank out in their basement or their garage. It's not just something tinny on a transistor radio speaker. It's something that is broadcast quality. So I suppose that's kind of the unfortunate part. And it doesn't matter whether it's music, graphic art, literature. There's a majority of very, very talented people will never be discovered. They'll continue to play little gigs around town. Occasionally, maybe they'll open for a larger act, but it's important that you do the things that can bring luck your way. If you write, but you never record anything, or you never get out of your basement, you just keep writing and writing and writing, luck is not going to find you. You have to get out there, either record, perform, both, talk to people, network with people, and hopefully somewhere in there, luck will find you and you will prosper.
With your 45 years of your legal career, plus the success you have with your music career, everyone has their own personal story of, their self-doubt. Everyone had to overcome those chapters. For you, what was it that helped you to get over maybe seasons or chapters of any self-doubt, whether it was your career or if it was involved with music?
Sometimes it just takes time. I've gone through periods where I just couldn't write anything. I didn't have any inspiration. I didn't have any ideas. And sometimes it was very frustrating. I would think, well, are you done? Have you written your last song? And then it seemed like all of a sudden I'd get inspired, a few lyrics would pop into my head and I'd be on it again. And the same thing occurs when you're trying to build and sustain a law practice. There are those days where you think, but why am I doing this? This is crazy. But it's important to persevere and just push yourself Sometimes there's somebody there to push you along, but a lot of times you've got to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. And fortunately, I've been pretty good at that. I remember when I was doing Dark Stretch of Road, I hit a point where I was out of the studio for several months. I just couldn't get the title track the way I wanted it. And finally, we went back in, nailed it, and the project was complete.
On the outside looking in, someone who sees what you've been able to accomplish. I mean, you make it look easy, but 45 years is a long time in legal. And to say, you know what, I want to do music too, and you make it look easy right now. What is it that you would say separates a person's average performance versus a person who's like the first one to show up last to leave a performance?
Again, a lot of it is talent. And talent is a form of luck. Yeah. There are people who, I don't care how many hours and days and weeks and years they spend playing the guitar, they'll never be as good as Eddie Van Halen, for example. Or they'll never be as good a painter as Rembrandt. There's just that sort of X factor that you're either born with or you're not. However, there's that saying that you have to develop your craft, because craft is what you have when talent runs out. And I think it's important to get as much education, training. It doesn't have to be formal, but you have to keep looking at people that do what you're trying to do. Look at people that do it well. Don't copy. I think that's a huge mistake. If someone says, "Oh, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a song that sounds like a Journey song,"
yeah,
it might, but it's probably not going to be like a good Journey song. So listen, get inspired, but you have to find your own voice. And I think I've done a pretty good job of that. I don't try to, copy or emulate someone's style. Whatever I'm feeling, that's what I write. If people like it, I'm thrilled. If they don't, I'll keep trying.
Once again, listen, I Refocus Radio, talking to our guest today, Tim Tye. You can go to his website. It is midnightskymusic.com. My last question for you is, you just sound like a person that's about quality, structure, all that good stuff. My last question for you is, how did you or do you try to measure your progress in life? Whether it's from the creative perspective or professional perspective, business perspective, how do you try to measure yourself so that way you can be self-aware of you reaching your goals, or just at least being that productive person?
I know this sounds a little bit corny, but I try to judge my level of happiness. It's great to make some money. It's great to get an award. It's great to have people tell you that you're good, your stuff is good, but none of that necessarily makes you happy. And so when I'm doing something, when I'm creating something, and I'm getting this sense of joy, this sense of happiness, that's how I judge where I am at the moment in life. And I think, like most people, there have been times when the level of happiness hasn't been that great. And the beauty of music is that it's always helped me get past those points. And it's a wonderful thing. But instead of looking at, it's great to have a lot of Spotify streams, and it's great to be nominated for awards, and it's great to have people say your stuff's really good. But at the end of the day, it's do you feel happy? Do you feel fulfilled? Not it's good to have a few dollars in the bank, but again, money truly doesn't buy happiness. Happiness comes from having friends. It comes from having hobbies and activities that give you joy. And so that to me is what really matters. Are you happy?
Once again, people want to find out more information about Tim Tye, you can go to his website, midnightskymusic.com. You also find him on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Like always, Tim, I want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.